don't mind me, I'm just in my car before I go to work, and it's very sunny here. Even though it's freezing, the sun is just starting to come out. So yeah, the glare is a little bit crazy right now. But I really just wanted to talk to you guys because I was watching the astrology podcast this morning and absolutely love Chris Brennan and Austin. They are so amazing and I love watching their forecast. So they've just dropped their May forecast on YouTube, and it was absolutely amazing. And it's just made me reflect on like the Mars in Cancer. Like we've had that for so long. I think because of the retrograde, like Mars was in Cancer for like 5 months or something, but I'll get the exact dates and I'll kind of pop it in the description box, like the heading of this, just so you can kind of get the dates for that. But it obviously retrograded from 6 degrees of Leo back into Cancer, and now it's just moved back into the beginning degrees of Leo at the moment. So I think at the moment currently it's about 3 or 4 degrees in Leo, so it's just starting to get back to that point where it originally went retrograde back in 2024. But it just had me reflecting on a lot of the themes and predictions that I kind of said for that Mars in Cancer energy. Keeping in mind that the Mars in Cancer opposite Pluto in Capricorn at that 29 degree axis was involved in this Mars retrograde in Cancer as well. But I spoke about things like fighting for your lands, for your country, being very patriotic. Now we have absolutely seen that, especially through things that are happening in the US, like globally, but in particular the big like news headlines were focused on the US. Now there have been many people gathering together and voicing their opinions and unease and frustration with the leaders and people in power and the decisions that they're making. But essentially there was a lot of confusion and frustration about the Republicans winning, obviously Trump being the new president. There was also things like mass migration and deportation being brought up quite a lot. And then more recently, actions that actually took place around that, especially as Mars was direct. We've had those actions and follow through with the deportations, especially in the US. We've had a lot of talks and discussions from leaders and different countries and nations arguing over like borders and land and like that kind of aggression there, which is not surprising. Like there's just been a continuation with all of that through Europe and, you know, other places. And now we're kind of seeing some conflict with like India and Pakistan. But when I was looking at Mars and Cancer, I was really feeling like people are going to be fighting for their ancestry, people are going to be fighting for their lands, they're going to be fighting for their home and family. There was just that energy around it. And so to all of the Cancer rising people out there, or people with strong Cancer placements like your sun or moon, I applaud you guys. You have made it through that Mars in Cancer retrograde. And I really hope that that energy has shifted and changed for all of you guys, and you guys are doing a lot better now. It was also very interesting that the Pope was a Cancer rising. And if you watched my Taurus new moon predictions, I did say that we would see a leader and their unaliving, and I did actually mention his name specifically along with like 2 other people's names that's like quite prominent at the moment that I'll be keeping an eye on. And so the Mars in Cancer for the Pope actually, I believe, triggered or kind of made his health problems a lot worse. Obviously he was in hospital for quite some time, and then with Mars going direct and like moving into Leo and triggering like from the eclipses, the leftover residual energy from the eclipses, and then the Taurus new moon, we unfortunately seen him just pretty much with Easter no longer be here. And so it's just showing how like literal the astrology can be. Which is why now that Mars is in Leo, I'm looking at other public figures' charts that are like Leo rising or have big Leo placements, because they are having like this final Mars-Pluto opposition happening in like that 3-4 degree mark in Leo and Aquarius. So definitely that energy is so potent, and I think there's so much that we're going to keep hearing and seeing about. But now that Mars is back in a fire sign, I think we're going to see a lot of action and drive, more so than before. Like I know people were super worried and they were kind of feeling like there was a lot happening with the Mars in Cancer, especially because of the retrograde and Mars being in like that Leo Cancer area for so long in 2024 and 2025. But it was in a water sign, which is very passive aggressive. And yes, there were still like aggression and, you know, different events happening that were quite violent. I feel now that Mars is in a fire sign that things are going to kind of pop off really quickly and ignite really fast. Not to mention the leaders of the US and also, you know, the leader of China have pretty significant Gemini placements. And at the moment we have Jupiter going through Gemini. It's just finishing up its transit there. It's usually there for about 12 months. But what really has me interested, and also what they spoke about on the astrology podcast, is that the United States, their Sibley chart is due for their Uranus return, which gets activated this July when Uranus actually moves into Gemini. I think it's around the 7th of July. So that's going to be huge for the United States and is often linked to civil WARs and conflict. And then with China and their leader having strong Gemini placements, Uranus is going to go through there and trigger some of them and bring out some very chaotic behavior. And Uranus is going to do the exact same for Trump and him being the leader of the US. I think we can expect some more erratic, unpredictable behavior from a lot of people with strong Gemini placements. And it's also very interesting that I believe, don't quote me, I could be wrong, but from my understanding, I think there's been like a bit of a kind of a pause or a halt on the tariffs. I think that's supposed to be like a 90-day kind of pause, which guess what that aligns with? That pause expires pretty much within days of Uranus moving into Gemini. So we pretty much have Uranus moving into Gemini, and then very soon after, that kind of pause or hold expires. And what does Mercury and Gemini rule over? Well, news, communication, social media. But it also rules over merchants, trade. And we're in a bit of a trade WAR with this current economy and situation. That was very much linked to Mercury and Venus going retrograde in Aries and then back into Pisces. That was also happening very close to Saturn. They both went direct very much when they were conjunct Saturn or very close to Saturn. So the fact that Mercury rules over transport, obviously news, communication, all of that kind of stuff, but like trade, it's the merchants, retail, like all that kind of stuff. So I would expect things to be very, very difficult and challenging. Like I feel like if you think things are kind of bad with the economy now, let's just see what happens when July comes and when Uranus is in Gemini. I would be definitely making sure you've got everything you need at home food-wise. Set up a veggie garden and a herb garden like what I've done. Learn basic life skills like sewing and how to do things yourself. Just kind of do your prepping in case there's like big halts due to the tariffs, things are too unaffordable, or you just can't get things aren't getting imported, exported, because that's definitely Mercury themes, Gemini themes. Or if there is like massive blackouts, which I have spoken about with the Pluto and Aquarius energy, we're already seeing some of those blackouts now in Europe with Spain and France. So like be prepared, but not scared. Like just remember to ground yourself, connect with your spirit team and guides, use your intuition, observe this situation, but definitely be prepared. And I think it's very interesting that, July, that's when the kind of trade pause expires. You've got Uranus moving into Gemini. You've got some pretty big aspects happening between all of the outer planets that have all changed sign within months of each other, which is very rare. And then in September, we're going to have some more eclipses, the Virgo eclipses, which is also going to be quite closely aligned with Saturn. Again, remember how Mercury and Venus went direct very close to Saturn when they were like near Saturn. And now these eclipses are going to be with Saturn. Very much like restrictions, limitations, boundaries, like setting foundations for the long term. These situations are going to last and drag out because Saturn makes them last longer. It's all to do with time. Like Saturn wants you to do the hard work and put in the time and effort.